Yucker Prince Chapter 1. This is a story about a prince, a witch, and a cat. Well, no, that's not quite right. This is my story. I'm telling it, and I'm a witch. So I suppose what I should really say is this is a story about a witch, a prince, and a cat. But before you run off screaming, "Mammy, there's a wicked, horrid witch telling me a story," let me put you right on a couple of things. Firstly, I'm not a bit horrid. In fact, I'm really rather nice and not at all bad looking, even if I do say so myself. And secondly, I'm not the slightest bit wicked. Most witches aren't. Oh, I know you've heard about the one who put Sleeping Beauty to sleep for 100 years and the other one who kept Rapunzel prisoner in the tower. That doesn't prove anything, does it? I mean, how many witches do you think there are in the world? Hundreds? Thousands? Millions? Gazillions? You don't know? Well, I have to be honest, neither do I. But I'd guess that it's somewhere between thousands and millions. And that's my point. If there are that many witches in the world, and you've only heard of a few bad ones, then most witches must be good, mustn't they? And I'm one of the good ones. Now, let me ask you another question. How many bad princes have you heard of? None. I thought so. I thought not. And neither had I until the day I came face to face with Prince Aloysius Tripod Jephycus, the Yucker Prince. Most princes I'd heard of were the brave, handsome, dashing types. You know, the sort always rushing off to slay dragons or rescue princesses in distress and that sort of thing. But if there are as many princes as there are as many princes as there are witches, and I suppose there must be at least that many, then it stands to reason that there are a few bad witches, then there also must be a few bad princes. Mind you, I wouldn't mind betting there weren't many who were as bad as the Yucker Prince. To look at him with his big blue eyes, his dimply cheeks and his long golden curls, you'd have thought he was a perfect little angel. And so he was, when things were going his way. Or he wanted something. "Mammy," he'd say with his sweetest smile, "can I have another lollipop?" Or, "Daddy, may I have another slice of cake?" Or, "Mammy, may I stay up another hour or so?" And if the answer was yes, then everything would remain perfectly peaceful and happy. If, however, the king or queen replied, as most parents would, "Now, dear, you know that too many lollies are bad for your teeth," or "No, dear, I think another piece of cake would make you feel ill," or "No, dear, you know that you'll be too tired in the morning," then the sweet little angel would turn into a raging, screaming demon. He'd throw himself on the floor, kicking and punching and holding his breath until he turned blue in the face. Then he'd jump up, run across the room, grab the cat and jam him into the goldfish bowl. Next he'd tug and pull at the curtains until they came tumbling down into one big heap. And when he'd finished with the curtains, he'd start throwing and breaking anything he could lay his hands on. Oh, he was a real cutie, all right, and God help anyone who tried to stop him when he was in that sort of temper, because he'd kick and scratch and bite and spit and pull hair and be just about as nasty and horrid as anyone could be. In fact, he was absolutely yucky. The poor king and queen, they just couldn't control him at all, and neither could anyone else. That was why no one who knew anything about him would ever go near the palace, and why every day there'd be a long line of butlers, cooks, maids, gardeners and the like rushing to leave. They'd go running down the road, clutching their bags and belongings, while he stood on the balcony throwing stones, pulling faces and calling them names. It was the only kingdom in the world where every night you'd find the king and queen up to their elbows in washing up, or sweeping their own rooms and making their own beds. They really were a pitiful pair. So you can imagine how delighted they were when one morning a letter arrived inviting them to the birthday party of Princess Tara, a princess in the nearby kingdom of Urs. "Oh, how delightful," smiled the queen. "How delightful. Just think how pleasant it will be to be treated like a real king and queen for a change. Not having to do the washing up, or the cooking, or the sweeping, but having it all done for us. It will be wonderful. Quite wonderful," she giggled in delight, as she passed the invitation to the king. "We must get ready to leave at once. I'll take my blue dress and my green dress and my yellow dress. I'll take my black shoes and my red shoes." And as the queen chatted on, the king read the invitation quietly. Then he made one of those loud noises that you may have heard your own parents making when things weren't quite as they should be. "There may be a slight problem here, my dear," he said softly. "Did you read all of the letter?" And before she could answer, he continued, "I mean, this handwritten note at the bottom, from Sir Damas, the Chief Herald of Erse." The queen shook her head slowly. "I thought not," said the king, sighing. "It says, 'Perhaps the young prince should stay at home, as I am sure he will find the journey most tiring.'" "Oh," said the queen. "Oh, indeed," said the king. And then, for some time, neither of them said another word. There wasn't anything to say, because they both knew that what Sir Damas was really saying was, "On no account bring that little horrid brat of yours with you." And they couldn't really blame him. The Yucky Prince had been horrid to him on their last visit to Erse. Once, while Damas was asleep, the prince had covered his beard with raspberry jam. Another time he'd filled Damas's bed with thorns and nettles and waited outside to hear him scream. And if that wasn't bad enough, he even painted the old knight's donkey with green, white and yellow stripes. No, they were in no doubt. The note meant that if they were going to go, then they would have to go alone. "Oh dear," said the queen with a long, deep sigh. "It would have been so nice, so very, very nice." As they sat there sighing and feeling very sorry for themselves, the cook, the 221st that year, stormed in, picked up the invitation, and in very large letters wrote, "I quit." Then he stormed out, leaving the door open behind him. Soon the whole palace was alive with the sound of screaming, yelling and crashing dishes, as the rest of the staff went racing for the gates with the Yucky Prince rushing behind them, throwing cups and plates and screechings. "Go on, you bunch of sissies, run, and good riddance to ye all." The king looked across at the queen, almost pleading. He asked, "Do you think we could find anyone who would take him off our hands for a few days, just a few little days?" "I doubt it," said the queen, "unless we've got an extremely large babysitting fee, and even then I doubt it." "Oh, if only we could find someone," sighed the king. "Maybe, because I really would love to go." "Go where?" yelled the Yucky Prince, rushing into the room. "Where are we going? Where are we going?" We, stammered the prince. The prince looked down and saw the invitation. He broke into a big smile, which grew wider and sweeter as he read it. Then suddenly the smile disappeared and his face went red with anger. He rolled the invitation into a tight little ball and hurled it across the room. "How dare he doomed. How dared that great fat ugly old man suggest that I shouldn't go?" And he jumped onto the table and began stamping his feet in anger. Now, said the queen meekly. "It's a long way, and you know how easily you get tired." Don't, screamed the prince, running up and down the table, kicking the plates, cups, knives and forks across the room. "I don't get tired. I don't. And anyway, if I can't go, you can't. I won't let you. So there." "Not even for 100 of those special giant lollies that they make in Erse," said the king. "You know, the ones as big as your arms?" "No," snapped the prince angrily. "How about 150, offered the king. "No," screamed the Yucky Prince. 200. "No," shouted the Yucky Prince. 250. "No," said the Yucky Prince, but not quite as angrily this time. 300. "No." And on they bargained until it was finally agreed the Yucky Prince would stay behind if they would bring him 730 of the giant lollipops. Those of you who know these things will realise that that's 2 lollies for every day of the year. "But who will mind him?" sighed the queen. "Oh, don't worry about that. I'm so lovable that people will be fighting to mind me," smiled the Yucky Prince with his sweetest smile. "After all, they're just plain ordinary people. But me, well, I'm a real little prince." "You're most definitely a real little something," the king muttered under his breath. "Most definitely."